So to demonstrate the life cycle of a controller in the code, we're going to use a special namespace called System Diagnostics. And that namespace has a nice little method called debug.writeLine. I'm in the constructor. When we call this method, okay, from the System Diagnostics namespace, Visual Studio will write the text that will send as a parameter to the output window. Let's see this in action. So I'm going to say start, and I'm going to put my Northwind to the left, and I'm going to put my Visual Studio to the left and Northwind to the right. And then I'm going to choose debug Windows output. Okay, perfect. Now let's minimize everything else because we don't care about it. And here we can see some information that was written before. And as soon as we'll call our show orders, we can see that it's writing that it's in the constructor. And it also shows that it loads some other DLLs that it needed. Great, so I'm in the constructor. Perfect, so let's leverage that to better understand the execution of a controller. So let's add some code here that will make this easier to understand. Let's first of all say here debug WriteLine. Let me just copy this. Start of run method, or beginning of run method. Let's differently. Let's say before the execute. And here we'll say after the execute. Great. And we said here that we are in the constructor. Great. Now let's start handling the different events. In the onload, we'll say onload. Okay, and let's use the /t to tab it once aside. So we'll use the /t, it will actually create a tab in the report. It will make it easier to understand, indented. Perfect. Next, let's override the other event. So we'll start with onStart. And override onEnd, and in between let's add onEnterRow. We just quickly because I'm sure you're getting bored. onLeaveRow, and onSavingRow, and onUnload. Perfect. Now let's also tab this a bit. So onload will have a /t. OnUnload will also have a /t. OnStart, let's give it 2 /t's, and onEnterRow, let's give it 3 /t's. So we can see how it operates. And onEnd will have 2 /t's. Perfect. So let's run this and put Northwind on the left and on the right and Visual Studio on the left. And we have our output window. We can clear it. And when we are going to call our show orders controller, okay, we can see here that it's in the constructor. After it concluded the constructor, it started the before the execute. Then it called the onload event. Then it did some stuff, called the onStart and onEnterRow. And now it's waiting for me to operate. As I scroll down the rows, we can see onLeaveRow, onEnterRow, onLeaveRow, onEnterRow. We can see how all of these are added to our log over here. So these events get fired whenever I leave the row and then whenever I enter the row. If, for example, I'll close the controller now, we'll get leave row and unload and after execute. Let's clear this and do this again. Go to training, show orders. We can see constructor, before the execute, load, start, enter row, go 1 row down, leave row, enter row, close it, leave row, and unload and after execute. Great. But there's some more events. There's the onSavingRow that we didn't talk about here. So let's talk about onSavingRow. OnSaving row is an event that only happens for rows that have changed. It happens before the controller is about to save the data. So let's go and see that. Let's make a change. 1, 2, 3. So now we can see that the leave row event has happened and the saving row event has happened. Okay, as opposed to normally when I leave a row, only the leave row and enter row would happen. So the cycle is enter row, leave row, saving row. Perfect. Let's update it back. And again, we'll see leave row, saving row, enter row. And when we close our controller, we can see on leave, on end, on unload, and after the execute.